Hello everybody, and welcome to ThinkStep's webinar on how companies can protect product sales across Europe by taking control of WEEE batteries and packaging compliance. My name is Howard Stimpson and I'm a Senior Manager at ThinkStep's Recycling Compliance Business Unit. I'm also joined today by my colleague James Pearson, Product Manager, who during today's webinar will be demonstrating ThinkStep's unique web reporting tool, Environmental Compliance for Products, EC4P. Now, EC4P has been developed to allow companies to guarantee their WEEE batteries and packaging compliance across Europe. Before we start, just to let you know that time permitting, there will be opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation by typing them into the webinar toolbox. However, please bear in mind that as we have nearly 100 companies attending this webinar today, we will try and answer your questions, as many of the questions as time will allow at the end of the presentation. For any unanswered questions, we will endeavour to provide our answers to the participant at an appropriate opportunity after the webinar. Also, to let you know that a recording of the webinar will be available on ThinkStep's YouTube channel in the coming days. Okay, so to give you an overview of today's webinar, well, firstly, you may have not heard of our company ThinkStep before, so I'd like to give you some brief information about who we are and our industry experience in managed WEEE batteries and packaging compliance. I'll then provide a review of the WEEE Recast Directive and in particular the compliance requirements for producers of electrical and electronic equipment. During this discussion, I will also explain how the WEEE Recast provides options for manufacturers to provide WEEE compliance arrangements. This in turn allows the manufacturer to reduce their business risk and increase their sales flexibility by avoiding having to rely on distributors to manage WEEE compliance, and therefore protects the manufacturer's product sales across Europe. I will also be reviewing the batteries and packaging compliance requirements for producers and discuss the new opportunities there are for overseas manufacturers to be able to also manage batteries and packaging compliance arrangements alongside their WEEE compliance arrangements. And then using a case study of a manufacturer's 4-month stop sell of equipment in Germany, I'll then highlight the potential business risk for manufacturers when relying on the importing distributor to manage WEEE compliance arrangements in EU member states, and also show how ThinkStep's managed compliance solutions allow the manufacturer to take control of WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements in order to remove this business risk. I'll then pass you over to my colleague James, who will demonstrate how ThinkStep's web reporting tool EC4P is being used by manufacturers to guarantee their WEEE batteries and packaging compliance across all 28 member states, plus the EFTA countries, Iceland, Norway and Switzerland. And of course, there should be opportunity at the end to answer questions which have been posted into our webinar toolbox. Okay, so a little information about ThinkStep. Well, for those of you who have not heard of our company before, we're a global sustainability company with over 250 sustainability experts employed across 19 countries. We serve more than 2,000 companies, including 40% of the global Fortune 500. ThinkStep's recycling compliance business is run from the ThinkStep Compliance Limited subsidiary, which is located in the southwest UK, and is led by my colleague Dr. Aidan Turnbull. Now, one of the unique aspects about ThinkStep is that we offer solutions to manage compliance for electrotechnical products across all stages of the life cycle. Our Integrated Materials Management IMM software and our Compliance Process Manager software enables you to design compliant products in your PLM system. BombCheck enables you to buy compliant components from your suppliers. And then finally, our EC4P system allows the manufacturer to comply with WEEE batteries and packaging recycling requirements. Now, from this office, we provide our full range of managed WEEE batteries and packaging outsource services to ensure that companies can meet their obligations for producer registration, take-back, recycling and reporting. Our industry experience in the field of producer responsibility, specifically WEEE here, dates back to 2003, when we wrote the UK government guidelines for RoS and WEEE. 2 years later, in 2005, we launched our pan-European web-based WE compliance services to assist manufacturers of professional use equipment to be able to better manage their WE collection and recycling arrangements. In 2007, we were the first organisation in the UK to gain authorisation from the UK government to operate a licensed producer compliance scheme for WE, B2B WE scheme. And in 2009, we launched our integrated managed services for WE batteries and packaging compliance. Fast forward to 2013, we then launched our WE batteries and packaging compliance services for non-EU countries. And then in 2014, as we'll see today, we developed and launched our unique web tool EC4P for manufacturers to be able to gather and then manage their WE batteries and packaging compliance reporting data. Okay, so that's a bit about ThinkStep. Let's move on to the topic of WE. And a quick recap of the EU WE Recast Directive. Well, the WE Recast Directive requires producers to register and provide for financing of collection and recycling of WE and report WE compliance data. As an environmental directive, we see there are differences in how it's implemented and enforced across each EU member state. And the directive applies the first time a product is placed on the market in each EU member state. Under the WE Recast Directive, your company will be classed as a WE producer if you are located in the member state and you manufacture and sell equipment under your own brand in that EU member state. If you're located in the member state and you resell equipment under your own brand. If you're located in the member state and you import and sell another company's branded equipment, in this case, you're an importing distributor. And finally, if you sell equipment by means of distance communication directly to end users, now that includes households and professional end users. So if you direct sell to households or professional end users in the member state and you're located in another country. Okay, so if you're a WE producer, what do you need to do? Well, if you're classed as a producer in a particular member state, then your company has to meet certain compliance obligations. Now, this includes ensuring your products are marked with the crossed out wheelie bin symbol, that you register with the WE regulatory authority or a compliance scheme in that particular country. You have to report the amount of new products that you're selling in that country. You have to finance collection and transport of waste products for transport to an approved WE recycler. You have to finance waste product recycling to meet your WE directive targets and report the amount of waste product that has been recycled in that particular country. And if requested, you also need to be able to provide information on product recycling to recyclers and disassembly facilities. Now, in particular for manufacturers who have no physical presence in some or, in fact, any EU member state, and instead they use importing distributors to sell their products into Europe, the good news is that the WE Recast Directive does provide options for the manufacturer to take control of providing WE compliance arrangements instead of having to rely on the importing distributor to be able to do so. So if we look at what's included in the WE Recast Directive, well, Article 17 specifically states that member states must allow a manufacturer based in another member state to appoint an authorised representative located in its country to manage WE compliance for all product sales. As a result, there is now no need to rely on each individual importing distributor to manage WE compliance for the products that it imports and sells. And in fact, a single WE registration by a manufacturer's authorised representative can cover all products imported by all distributors in that member state. All EU countries have implemented Article 17, and in fact in many EU member states, manufacturers based in any country, even those outside Europe, can now appoint an authorised representative located in a particular EU member state to manage WEEE compliance for product sales. And we do see that in a small number of EU member states, the UK is such an example, direct registration is possible, which actually means there's no need to appoint an authorised representative in that country if you have no physical presence in that country. Now, this is really a shift away from the old WEEE directive and the old implementing member state WEEE regulations, where historically it was generally not possible to provide WEEE compliance for product sales in particular member states unless your company had some sort of physical presence in that country, such as a registered sales office. So let's have a look at what the responsibilities are if you appoint an authorised representative. Well, by appointing that authorised representative in a particular country, the authorised representative actually takes on the legal responsibility for all aspects of WEEE producer compliance. So the authorised representative in each country must ensure that the products are marked with a crossed out wheelie bin, register with the correct WEEE regulatory authority, report the tons of new products sold in that country, ensure waste product collection, transport of recycling complies with the WEEE regulations in that country and also meets the WEEE directive targets. They have to pay registration and recycling fees on behalf of the manufacturer. They also have to provide product recycling instructions to the recycler or disassembly facility if that is requested. And also they have to accept any prosecutions on behalf of the manufacturer in any event of non-compliance to the WEEE regulations in that country. Okay, so we've taken a look at the WEEE Recast Directive and what the options are for manufacturers, particularly overseas manufacturers, to be able to manage WEEE compliance arrangements on the distributor's behalf. Now let's take a look at the Batteries and Packaging Directives to see what new options are available for the overseas manufacturer to be able to manage batteries and packaging compliance arrangements on the importing distributor's behalf. Well, let's start with the Batteries Directive first off. It applies to all types of batteries, including, importantly, batteries incorporated to appliances, so electrical and electronic equipment. There are exemptions for batteries used in military and space equipment, however. There are single market provisions which apply equally in all EU member states concerning heavy metals restrictions, battery labelling obligations, and requirements to design electronic equipment in such a way to encourage the removability of the waste battery. If your company is classed as a batteries producer in a particular EU member state, you must register with the Batteries Regulatory Authority and provide battery take-back, treatment, recycling and reporting arrangements in that particular country. And similarly to the WEEE Recast Directive, this is an environmental directive. So we see differences in how the Batteries Directive is implemented in each country. And this includes whether or not an overseas manufacturer may be classed as a batteries producer in a particular country. And if they are, how they must comply as a batteries producer. Okay, moving on to the Packaging Directive. Well, the Packaging Directive applies to all packaging used for all types of household, commercial and industrial products. The directive specifically includes sales packaging, grouped packaging and transport packaging as in scope. Like the Batteries Directive, there are single market provisions which apply equally in all EU member states, covering substance restrictions, as well as requirements on packaging reusability and recoverability. Again, like the WEEE Recast Directive and the Batteries Directive, the packaging producer must register with the regulatory authorities and meet packaging collection, recovery and recycling targets. And yes, you've guessed it, the Packaging Directive is again an environmental directive. So again, we see differences in implementation across each EU member state. And again, this includes whether an overseas manufacturer may be classed as a packaging producer in a particular country, and if they are, how they have to comply with their obligations as a packaging producer. So as we've already discussed today, the WEEE Recast Directive specifically classes overseas manufacturers who sell electrical and electronic equipment directly to the end user as a WEEE producer. Now this opens the way for overseas manufacturers to be able to provide WEEE compliance arrangements on behalf of any importing distributor which they use in each EU member state. Now, what we're now seeing in many EU member states is that that particular member state is also applying the same principle to their batteries and packaging regulations. So this means that many member states' batteries and packaging regulations now class overseas manufacturers who sell packaged battery containing products directly to end users in the member state as a batteries and packaging producer. Therefore, the overseas manufacturer must register as a batteries and packaging producer under many implementing EU member state regulations. This is a new development to the batteries and packaging regulations. This means that overseas manufacturers can now register as a producer without having a physical presence in many EU member states. And like the WEEE Recast Directive, it now opens the way for the overseas manufacturer to provide batteries and packaging as well as WEEE compliance arrangements on behalf of their importing distributor in many EU member states. Now this table gives you just an idea of how in selected EU member states the overseas manufacturer can now implement batteries and packaging as well as WEEE compliance arrangements on behalf of the importing distributor. So for example, in the UK, the overseas manufacturer can only implement WEEE compliance arrangements on behalf of the importing distributor. This is because they would need a physical presence, such as a sales office, to be able to also register as a batteries and packaging producer in the UK. They can, however, register as a WEEE producer in the UK using an overseas business address. However, if we compare that to Germany, for example, well, the overseas manufacturer can implement batteries and packaging as well as WEEE compliance arrangements on behalf of the importing distributor. This is because the German batteries and packaging regulations do not require a manufacturer to have a physical presence, such as a sales office, in Germany to be able to register as a batteries and packaging producer in Germany. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is just share an animation with you that highlights what some of the main issues are facing the manufacturer if they rely on the importing distributor to provide WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements. So here, where responsibility for WEEE batteries and packaging compliance is left to the importing distributor, in this case importing products into Sweden, must understand all relevant obligations under the Swedish WEEE batteries and packaging law. They have to register as a producer with the correct WEEE batteries and packaging authorities. And they have to ensure the correct recycling of the products being imported and report the amount of products, batteries and packaging imported and sold in Sweden to the correct authority in the correct format and accept any prosecutions on the manufacturer's behalf. And of course, if the manufacturer sells into more than one member state through importing distributors, in this case, we're including Germany and Spain, the importing distributor must also meet the producer legal requirements under the WEEE batteries and packaging laws in these countries. And if the manufacturer is using more than one importing distributor in an EU member state, each and every importing distributor must meet the producer legal requirements under the WEEE and batteries and packaging laws in these countries. Now, of course, we've only considered 3 EU member states. We currently have 28 EU member states in total, each with different WEEE batteries and packaging regulations, and each with different requirements for WEEE batteries and packaging compliance. Now, ThinkStep's EC4P provides a compliance solution for equipment manufacturers who are looking to protect their product sales and take over control of WEEE batteries and packaging compliance from their importing distributor. ThinkStep's EC4P services are used by manufacturers to be able to consolidate their WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements in all EU member states for product sales. Now, in this way, EC4P allows the manufacturer to be able to understand all relevant WEEE and batteries and packaging obligations in all EU member states where the products are sold, and works with the manufacturer to recommend and then implement legally robust WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements in each country. Using EC4P, this means the manufacturer can then register as a WEEE batteries and packaging producer through an authorised representative, where required in each member state, to cover all products imported by all distributors in each EU member state. They can ensure the correct recycling of the products, batteries and packaging being imported in each EU member state, and report the amount of products, batteries and packaging imported and sold in each country to the correct authority in the correct format through the EC4P web reporting tool, which James will shortly demonstrate. And they can pay the correct WEEE batteries and packaging recycling fees on time. So EC4P therefore guarantees WEEE batteries and packaging compliance for the manufacturer so that the importing distributor can continue to legally sell the manufacturer's products in each particular EU member state. Okay, so I'd like to highlight what can happen to a manufacturer's sales when relying on the importing distributor to provide WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements. Now, what I'm going to show you is a real-life case study of a manufacturer who was selling electronic products in Germany and was subject to a 4-month stop sell as a result of issues arising over WEEE compliance in this country. So in this case, the distributor in Germany was importing electronic equipment, let's call it brand A equipment, from a US manufacturer, let's call them Manufacturer Inc., into Germany for sale. Now, the distributor had been doing this since 2010, and Manufacturer Inc. used its US legal entity to register as an overseas WEEE producer in Germany for this brand A equipment. Manufacturer Inc. has a valid WEEE producer registration number from the German WEEE authorities, and it's included this on its sales invoices to the importing distributor as proof of compliance. And this was all fine for the next 5 years. Now we move forward to the middle of 2015 when all assets for brand A equipment were sold to a separate company, Holdings Inc., and Manufacturer Inc. ceased to trade. At this time, the German WEEE authority Stiftung EAR was informed that Manufacturer Inc. had exited the market, and this meant that the WEEE registration number for Manufacturer Inc. and brand A equipment in Germany became marked as expired on the German WEEE producer register. Meanwhile, the importing distributor continued to sell brand A equipment into Germany. Now, this is where things started to become difficult for the Manufacturer Holding Inc. In September 2015, the importing distributor sent a letter to Holdings Inc. requesting a valid WEEE registration number for brand A equipment, and it warned Holdings Inc. that it would stop selling brand A equipment from the end of Q3 2015 unless a valid WEEE registration number was provided by them. The distributor at the same time made it clear that he would refuse to register as a WEEE producer in Germany for brand A equipment sales. Now, around this same time, on the 24th of October 2015, the new German WEEE recast regulations, Electra G2, were brought into force. Under these new WEEE recast regulations, companies without a legal presence in Germany could no longer register as an overseas producer, and instead must now either appoint an authorised representative based in Germany or set up an office based in Germany to register directly with the WEEE authorities. Any overseas manufacturer currently registered as WEEE producers in Germany had until the 24th of April 2016 to update their WEEE producer registrations. At the end of October 2015, the distributor implements a stop sell of all brand A products in Germany until the Manufacturer Holdings Inc. could provide a valid WE registration number. Now, not only this, the distributor requested directly to Holdings Inc. to remove all products from the distribution warehouse until the WE registration was completed. In November 2015, the manufacturer Holdings Inc. contacted ThinkStep for a proposal to be able to manage WE compliance in Germany. Now, during November, ThinkStep arranged an authorised representative in Germany and submitted the registration documents to the German WE agency Stiftung EAR. But unfortunately, the increased workload at Stiftung EAR meant that there was a 3-month delay to process new registrations and to issue new WE registration numbers. And this was due in most part to the new WE regulations being implemented in Germany, whereby each and every authorised representative contract had to be reviewed by Stiftung EAR. Learning the lessons from the stop sell issue in Germany, in January 2016, the manufacturer Holdings Inc. decided to use authorised representatives to take control of WE compliance for all product sales through its distributor network in 10 EU member states. And there is a happy ending, I'm pleased to say, for manufacturer Holdings Inc. because at the end of February 2016, the German WE agency Stiftung EAR issued the WE registration number for Holdings Inc. And the good news is that the distributor, in turn, agreed to start selling Brand A equipment again in Germany. And because Holdings Inc. has taken control of WE compliance arrangements for the importing distributor in Germany, Holdings Inc. is now even considering appointing additional distributors to sell its products into Germany. Okay, so we've had a look at the WE batteries and packaging directives and how they are implemented, in particular that allow the overseas manufacturer to be able to implement compliance arrangements on behalf of the importing distributor. So what services does ThinkStep specifically provide to help the manufacturers to be able to better control these WE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements and therefore better protect their product sales in Europe? Well, ThinkStep's EC4P can arrange authorised representatives in each EU member state to manage WE compliance for all manufacturer product sales, including those that are made by the importing distributor. We also manage producer registrations in each EU member state, and that allows the manufacturer to establish batteries and packaging compliance arrangements on behalf of importing distributors. This ensures increased sales flexibility and reduced business risk to the manufacturer, because now the manufacturer can partner with any distributor in a particular country. Manufacturers are therefore no longer limited to partnering only with distributors who agree to manage WE batteries and packaging compliance for the products they import and sell. And this completely avoids the risk of a stop sell if a distributor decides not to accept WE batteries and packaging compliance obligations in the country into which it imports the manufacturer's products. Now, just like for Holdings Inc. in our case study, how can ThinkStep help your companies to take control of WE as well as batteries and packaging compliance across Europe and therefore help to protect your company product sales? Well, we can assess your company's legal obligations and then provide robust compliance strategies to manage WE batteries and packaging compliance in all 28 member states. We then provide WE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements in each country, and this includes arranging authorised representatives for your company to appoint in each country, calculating your company's WE batteries and packaging recycling obligation for all product sales in each country, recommending the most cost-effective and reliable WE batteries and packaging compliance schemes in each country. And in this, we calculate and compare the registrations and recycling fees you would pay by joining different schemes in each country. We then manage the whole process of implementing and maintaining WE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements. And this includes submitting producer registrations, joining recycling schemes, reporting equipment sales through ThinkStep's EC4P, which James will be shortly demonstrating, and even paying registration and recycling fees on your behalf, and we invoice you at cost for these fees. For producers of professional use or B2B equipment, We also provide a web-based WEEE collection and recycling system which complies with WEEE shipment requirements in each country. And finally, if your company already has existing WEEE batteries and packaging compliance arrangements in place, we can carry out an audit of these arrangements to advise you whether you're getting best value at lowest cost in each country, and also, in fact, whether or not your arrangements are compliant to the regulations in each particular country. Okay, so you've heard me mention EC4P a number of times today. What I'd like to do now is pass you over to my colleague James Pearson, who's going to give you a demonstration of how EC4P is being used by manufacturers to be able to gather and manage their equipment, batteries and packaging sales data, which in turn allows them to guarantee their compliance with the WEEE batteries and packaging reporting obligations across Europe. Okay, thanks, James.
Okay, thanks Howard, and hello to all the attendees joining today's webinar. As Howard has mentioned, given me a great introduction and given EC4P a great introduction in the first half of today's webinar. In the second half of today's webinar, I'll be giving a guided demonstration of the EC4P system itself, and I hope to show you how EC4P, along with our managed compliance services, which Howard's gone into detail about, can be used to really to simplify the WEEE as well as batteries and packaging compliance process. And of course, as we've seen from Howard's case study, companies who are taking control of WEEE compliance benefit from increased sales flexibility and reduced business risk as well. So just a few housekeeping notes before I continue on with the demonstration. If any attendees have any questions, please use the chat function to submit those questions, and Howard and myself will do our best to answer those at the end of the webinar. And we can see that there's already been some questions coming through during the first half, so we'll look to answer those at the end of the webinar. Just to mention again that the webinar will also be available to watch via the EC4P YouTube channel, and we will also be providing a PDF copy of the slides after today's session to any attendees who would find those useful. Okay, so before switching over to the browser and starting the demo, I'd just like to summarize some of the points Howard covered, just to give some context during the actual product demonstration of EC4P. So we saw from the case study that relying on distributors to achieve WEEE compliance in each member state can limit sales flexibility and lead to an increase in business risk. EC4P actually gives manufacturers a really easy way to take control of EU WEEE as well as batteries and packaging compliance with a centralized approach to compliance management. Now, behind the scenes of the EC4P system, ThinkStep has a team of expert consultants who can very quickly and effectively assess a company's obligations. And as we've seen, obligations are dependent on both sales arrangements and product types. And assessing obligations can be quite a daunting task when considering even just a few member state countries. Our team can then provide cost-effective registration and reporting solutions. We have very long-standing relationships with the compliance schemes and the compliance scheme network across Europe. And we can then manage memberships to schemes going forward. This includes helping companies ensure they meet all their reporting deadlines, and that's really where EC4P, the EC4P cloud platform comes in. Okay, so more specifically, the EC4P system itself simplifies compliance through a number of different ways. Number one, it displays all upcoming reporting deadlines, which we have determined are specific to a manufacturer. Now, considering these deadlines are often over different timescales with different deadline dates, this can be seen as an extremely valuable management tool. EC4P that will then chase users for data via email notifications, which are sent out as each deadline approaches. It will then check users have entered the data in the correct format for that particular deadline. ThinkStep will actually pay recycling fees in each member state and invoice at cost, as Howard mentioned. And we found that many companies find a huge benefit in only setting up one supplier, being ThinkStep, as opposed to setting up accounts for every compliance scheme membership that they need. EC4P will then generate and issue compliance certificates on an annual basis, and these certificates detail the countries and the associated regulations a company has maintained compliance with using EC4P. And this we found is a very straightforward way for companies to communicate compliance with the likes of authorities, auditors, and customers, as well as in some instances inside the company as well. Okay, so now that we have a bit of background about the system, I'd like to move on to give you the actual demonstration itself. So to highlight the main aspects of the EC4P cloud-based reporting platform, we've set up an example account for a company named Acme Electronics, who is hypothetically an electronics manufacturer selling packaged products which contain batteries into multiple EU member states, and who are using EC4P to achieve WEEE, as well as batteries and packaging compliance in those member states where it is operating. So I'll now head over to the EC4P public page. I'll navigate to the login page, where I can log in as a user of the Acme Electronics account.